Hello children, welcome to the digital classes. Today we are going to deal about the chapter Adaptations in Different Ecosystem Part 1. Children, you can see the differentiation between the goat which is present over here and the Himalayan goat. You can see the type of skin it has, right children? The fur. Now children, you can see the slide with different types of clothes. Yes, these are the clothes which we wear in the summer. These are the clothes which we wear in the rainy season, and these are the clothes which we wear in the winter season. Now children, let's see the summer clothes. They are short and cotton type. Rainy season, they are resin type to protect us from the rain. Now the winter clothes, muffler, scarf and the gloves. So we do change according to the climate around us, in and around us. So let's deal about the adaptations in different ecosystems. An ecosystem is a geographic area where plants, animals and microorganisms live. Ecosystem consists of biotic as well as abiotic factors. Biotic. Children, biotic means which has life. Biotic factors includes plants, animals and microorganisms. Abiotic, which do not have life, that is temperature, pressure and salinity. Now children, these abiotic factors plays an important role in biotic factor. Now children, you can see the ecological niche, the food chain. These are the producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers and the carnivores. So in each and every ecosystem, the life depend on the further food chain. So children, you can see the food chain, right? Now habitat. Do you feel that tree is the only habitat for crow and cow? No. Tree is the habitat for small insects, right? Birds, which give shelter to the cattle, right? Now, habitat is a place where an organism makes its home. All the environmental conditions an organism needs to survive, it needs to gather food, select a mate and successfully reproduce. Now, habitat children. Two types of habitats are there. Terrestrial, that is land, aquatic, water. Now, terrestrial habitat. These contains forest, desert, grasslands. Aquatic habitat, ponds, rivers, lakes, oceans. These are the Amazon rainforest and this is the polar region. Now, adaptation. An organism adjusts themselves to diverse and distinct changes in ecosystem. Organisms have to adapt different means for better survival. Children, these are mangrove plants. These mangrove plants live in wet and salty places. It always lives in the water. Now children, we know that with the help of roots, the plant take in water and the xylem transport the water to all parts of the plant. Now, when the plant is always in water, it doesn't respire. So the roots adapt themselves. So the mangrove roots grow like lateral roots above 12 inches from the soil. You can see here children, they are growing about 12 inches from the water. These are the roots. These are called as pneumatophores. Pneumato means children filled with air. So they are air breathing roots. So you can see children, the lateral roots are protruding out. So they grow in wet and salty place. They have evolved to have curious looking projections from their roots called pneumatophores or knees. So these roots helps in breathing. So they exchange the oxygen and give off the carbon dioxide. Now these knees, aerial roots, develop from the lateral roots that are growing near the surface and protrude up to 12 inches out of the soil or sediment. So they aid the plants in maintaining adequate root respiration in watery environment. So the organisms adopt or develop over a certain period of time in different conditions for better survival. So children, let's see the other activity. Take two potted plants, one plant as aloe vera, one plant as blossom plant. Now, please do not water the plant for 1 week. Just water the plant before 1 week for 1 teaspoon or 1 tablespoon. After 1 week, we observe that the aloe vera plant sustained, the other plant dried off. Now, what is the reason? Now, children, the aloe vera plant adapt to desert conditions. Now, the water which we pour before the 1 week, it retained in the stem, right? Now these are the aquatic plants, Eichhornia, then Hydrilla and Pistia. So these are the xerophytic plants. This is cactus and the aloe vera. Now children, this is Opentia. Children, you can see thorn-like projections. So in this Opentia, the leaves are modified into spines to avoid the transpiration process. What happens in the transpiration process, children? Yes, the water is evaporated. So to compensate the water loss, they have evolved the spines. So the leaves are reduced into spines in Opentia. Now children, the stem is called as succulent stem because it stores the water. We can clearly see in the aloe vera, children, right? So they store the water in the stem. That's the reason the stem is called as succulent stem. The leaves are reduced to spines, so the transpiration loss is checked. Then water is stored in the tissues of the stem, that is called as succulent stem. You can see, children, baobab tree here, the trunk is filled with water. It grows in the desert areas, children. So the baobab tree the trunk is filled with water. This is kind of adaptation. So in baobab tree, the trunk is swollen. It stores water in its trunk and survives the scorching heat of dry seasons. So children, these are the living stones. This is a plant called as pebble plant. They are looking like pebbles, no children, right? You can see the pebble plant. This is pebble plant called as living stones. It cheats the organisms which comes to eat it. So the swollen leaves are adapted to desert conditions, minimizing the water loss and storing water. Each pebble is actually a leaf with a cut window that lets in the light. You can see, children, this is the leaf and this is the cut window which is allowing the light to get in to process the photosynthesis. The stone-like appearance deceives the animals and saves it from being eaten. So this is the adaptation by the pebble plant, children. So they are called as what? Yes, they are called as living stones. This is agave, Kittanara. This is a xerophytic plant grown as fence around the crop fields. Children, these are again the xerophytic plants which are ornamental, which we decorate in our home, right children? Now, we will learn about specific animal called as camel. This is the camel, children, king of the desert, right children? This has hump and long legs, voluntary nostrils which close when the sun comes, and these are the eyelashes which close, children. Let's see in detail. You can see the big long eyelashes which protect the camel from the sand wind, and the voluntary nostrils close when the sand wind occurs. So the hump stores fat for later use, long eyelashes protect eye from sand, nostrils voluntary close to protect from blowing sand, long legs keep the body away from the hot ground. This is the adaptation shown by the camel, children. Now this is the sidewinder snake, sidewinder adder snake. It crawls sideways with only a small amount of its body pressed against the hot sand. So this technique helps to keep itself cool. This is the golden mole, children. It do not have eyes, so it escapes the heat of the sun by swimming through the sand just below the surface. It rarely emerges out as it finds all the needs below the ground. Now this is kangaroo rat of western North American desert, can live without drinking water throughout its life because its body synthesizes little water in the process of digestion. Now this is the sand grouse, children, the desert bird which flies long distance to an oasis for water, which it carries back in its crop for its nestlings. So crop is the stomach, children, which is called as stomach in birds. So it stores water for its nestlings. This is phoenix fox, children. They have furry soles which help to walk on the hot sand and loses heat through its ears. So this is the sand diving lizard, children. When the sand becomes too hot, the sand diving lizard holds its feet in the air to cool down. So these are the adaptations shown by some animals. So some adaptations are shown by animals called as nocturnals. Nocturnals which come around during night to avoid the day temperature, right children? So the animals which are active during night and sleep during day, they have highly developed senses of hearing and smell. So they have specially adopted eyesight to see well in dark. So this is the best example for nocturnal children. Bat emits a high-pitched sound which bounces off objects to find prey or protect from predators. This is the firefly children. This exhibit bioluminescence, an organisms which produce and emits light. So the sparkles of fireflies on a summer night is produced as a result of a chemical reaction in their glowing abdomens. So this is cuttlefish children, which is again nocturnal. This is the owl, which is again nocturnal. So aquatic ecosystem. There are two different types of aquatic ecosystem children, fresh water and the marine. Now freshwater ecosystems consist of rivers, ponds and lakes. Marine, seas and oceans. So if the seashore is present, this is called as sea children. This is the ocean. So aquatic adaptations, special air sacs present inside the bodies or presence of such substances that helps organisms to swim and float in water to inhabit at different levels in the water body. So children, you can see here the flippers of the tortoise and fins of the fishes. So they bear specialized structures to swim like flippers as in turtles and fins in the fishes. You can see children, fishes like dolphins etc. have floaters in their body. So these are specialized structures in the digestive canal to be able to inhabit at particular levels in the water body. So children, these are the tiny droplets of water. Children, when you pour oil on the water, it will float on the surface of the water. So oil acts as a floating substances. So the microscopic photosynthetic organism like plankton have droplets of oil in their cells that keeps them float. The larger plants have long, tough leaves and flexible stems. Marine ecosystem. So marine ecosystem, they have 4 different types of abiotic factors children, that is salinity, the amount of salt content present in the water, temperature, sunlight and the pressure. Salinity, children, we all know that ocean water is salty, right? The presence of salt in the water. So that is salinity. The temperature, sunlight and pressure. Temperature, children, temperature decreases deep down in the water, depends on the sunlight penetration. So the temperature decreases as we go deep down. So oceans have great depths, so penetration isn't possible. Salinity, the salt content in water is high in sea and oceans. Low salt content in ponds, lakes and rivers. As the salinity increases, pressure also increases. Children, you can see here temperature decreases, salinity increases and the pressure also increases. So temperature is very prominent. Temperature depends on the penetration of sunlight. Sunlight, temperatures vary dramatically between the surface and the ocean floor. So on the surface of the ocean, the penetration of sunlight is very well children. You can see here when we go deep down, it will be very dark. Now you can see clearly here children the penetration of sunlight, right? So when the penetration of sunlight is present, the temperature is optimum. When there is no sunlight, the temperature decreases and the pressure increases, salinity also increases. So air breathing surface dwellers like us and the fishes have specialized structures in their body. Let's see them children. These are the seals. So seals, what they do is they are very weight. They have the body very weight children. So what they do to swim down, they collapse their lungs. When they collapse their lungs, it becomes heavy and they sink down without using their flippers, right children? So they do not swim down. So when they have to come up, they have specialized structures in their blood which are very specific oxygen binds. So with the help of them, they again come up. So the seals, they collapse their lungs to sink. When they collapse their lungs, they become very weight. So they sink down. So once a seal lungs have collapsed, its lungs, it becomes heavier than water and so it sinks. Thus it does not have flap like flippers all the way down. It reaches great depths mostly by gliding effortlessly, saving its oxygen stores for the strenuous climb back to the surface. So these are the sperm whales, children. So instead of fighting the pressure, they let it collapse their lungs completely. Some oxygen remains in the lungs. Children, we know that oxygen helping the aerobic respiration. Right, children? They give out energy. So instead of fighting against the pressure, they will collapse their lungs. So when they collapse their lungs, their body becomes very heavy. When it becomes heavy, they slowly sink down, right? So they are storing some amount of oxygen in the lungs. So they slowly come up by using that oxygen in the form of respiration. So some oxygen remains in their lungs, but they mostly store it in their muscles where it is needed. Their muscle tissue contains much higher concentration of oxygen binding chemicals than our muscles. You can see, children, lung-like swim bladder. Specifically, swim bladder again help them to float. Let's see. So they move up in the water column by releasing gas into the bladder and inflating it, and down by reabsorbing the gas into the blood. Children, when they want to move up, they will inflate the bladder. Inflate means, children, when you blow a balloon, the balloon inflates. So when they inflate their swim bladder, they will come up.